Okay, so I am Carrie Lane. I'm a professor of American Studies, and I'm one of the faculty advisors for the department. And I'm really excited to be here with you all. This is one of the first times we've done an official transfer orientation for the department. And so I appreciate your being here. We're really excited to have you joining the department. I wish this could be in person. I wish we could be doing this in a room with coffee and snacks and really getting to see one another in person. But this is what we're doing for now. And so I appreciate your patience with the online version of this. And what we'll do today is I'm going to show you just a little presentation that I recorded earlier that walks you through the major and sort of the nuts and bolts of the requirements for the major and a little bit of detail about the department. And then I've got a quick video of our own students talking about the major so you can meet some of your fellow American Studies students in video form. Then there's going to be a lot of time at the end for questions and answers. Anything that I can help you with at this stage, I'll be happy to talk about with you. So with that, let me go ahead and I will start our video. And just do me a favor, if you're not able to hear or see the video, just let me know quickly. If you could just type it into the chat or just go ahead and turn off your audio, turn on your audio and just give me a heads up. That way we know sooner rather than later. So if it's all quiet, I will assume it's all going perfectly. Okay.
Hi there, I'm Professor Carrie Lane, one of the advisors in the Department of American Studies, and I want to tell you a little bit about our major today. Maybe you're new to American Studies, you've never heard of it, you saw this link on the website and just thought, I wonder what that is. Or maybe you've already taken classes in American Studies, maybe for a general ed requirement, maybe just out of interest. Maybe you've already decided you're going to minor or double major in American Studies and just want to learn a bit more. Either way, this video can help you out. I'm going to walk you through the structure of the major and the minor, what it takes to major or minor in American Studies. And then I'm also going to talk with you about the department itself, about our community, about careers in American Studies, because everybody asks, what do you do with an American Studies degree? And I'm going to make sure you have the contact information you need if you want to learn more and talk with an advisor in American Studies. So let's get started. Now, first, I want to talk to you about the American Studies minor. I'll tell you right up front, most students who think about minoring in American Studies end up double majoring. Because, as you'll see in the subsequent slides, it's actually not that many more courses to double major than it is to minor. But let's start with the minor here. So, as you can see, any student in American Studies takes 3 core courses. I've put the titles of those courses here on the side for you. Introduction to American Studies, that's American Studies 201. American Studies 301 is American Character. American Studies 401T is a research seminar in American Studies. The topic of 401T changes every semester. Usually we offer at least 2 different choices, but each time it's on different topics. So you take those 3 core courses. Now, those can also double count for GE, just so you know. Then you look down here, and you're required to take 4 electives for the minor in American Studies. Now, 3 of those courses have to be American Studies courses in our department. But the 4th one, this little guy here, we can, if you'd like, we can actually count a course from outside of American Studies, perhaps a course from your major or another discipline, and we can, as long as it relates to American culture or society, then we can count that course as your 4th elective. So for many students who decide to minor after taking, say, 1 or 2 GEs in American Studies and realizing they like it, by the time they come to the minor, they actually only have a few courses left. Now, on the next slide, I'm going to show you what it takes to double major in American Studies, and you'll see what that looks like. But just know that if you are thinking about doing a minor in American Studies, you reach out to an American Studies advisor. They can tell you exactly what the minor would look like for you, what classes you've taken, what remains, and they can also help you weigh the decision of whether you want to minor or double major in American Studies. Now, let's talk about what the major looks like. So the American Studies major requires 36 units. That's broken down into 12 units or 4 courses that are core courses, and then 24 units worth of electives. So let's start with the core courses. Every student who majors in American Studies takes American Studies 201, that's Introduction to American Studies, American Studies 301, American Character, which sort of covers the multiple groups and influences that make America what it is in past and present. You take American Studies 350, Theory and Method of American Studies. Basically, that's looking at the different ideas that we use in American Studies, and then the methodologies, the kinds of research that we use to investigate the sorts of cultural questions that we ask about American culture. And then there's American Studies 401T. That's our pro seminar in American Studies. It is a research seminar, and we offer many different topics. These change every semester, so it just depends on which ones are being offered when you feel like you're in a good place to take this. And I will tell you that most students don't knock out the core courses and then start the electives. Usually it's a good idea to take 201 and 301, then get a few electives under your belt. And at the end of your junior year or the beginning of your senior year, whenever that falls for you, then you might take theory and methods first. And then in your last or next to last semester, you would take your upper division research seminar. And it's just worth noting, you can actually take 2 401Ts as long as they're different topics. The second one would just count as an elective for you. So let's talk about how electives work. As you see, there are 8 spaces for courses under electives. So in order to graduate with a major in American Studies, you finish those 4 core courses and you take 8 upper division electives. Some of the kinds of classes that we offer for those electives might be courses on the suburbs, TV and American culture, a popular class on American monsters. We also have courses on things like Bohemians and Beats, technology in American culture, fashion in America. We have classes on California culture, disability in American culture, prejudice in American culture, Americans and nature, images of crime and violence, gaming in American culture, sexual orientation and American culture, women, race and America, love in America, food and American culture, American nightlife. We also have internships options in American Studies where you can get 3 units of elective credit for doing a 120-hour internship. And we can advise you about that as well. But just know that these are all options available to you as electives in American Studies, these and more. We have such an exciting array of courses. We have wonderful faculty, and we have new faculty joining us all the time who add to our curriculum, offering new courses in a great array of sort of cutting-edge topics in American Studies. Now, when you choose to major in American Studies, there are 3 different ways that you could tackle the major. This can be a little confusing. So if you want to zone out and just contact an advisor later for a one-on-one talk about what this looks like for you, that's totally fine. But I thought it was worthwhile just to walk through it because I know it can be a little confusing for students. So let's look here. These are your core courses, right? And as you see, regardless of which of the 3 approaches you take, you're going to take the same core courses. That's the same for everybody. Now, look over here with me at this column right here. We see that this student has taken 8 electives, and all 8 of those electives are upper division courses in the American Studies department, right? Each of those 8 courses is a different course offered by the American Studies department. And that's a very sort of straightforward way to approach the major. But now let's look over here at this second option. This is what we call the disciplinary approach. And if a student wants to do this approach, then there's a little bit of a mixture of options they can take. So under this disciplinary focus, look right up here. You see that I've typed in here on this student's advisement worksheet, and each student gets a worksheet that looks like this eventually. Soc. That means that this student has a disciplinary focus in sociology. So you see here, they took 6 courses that were American Studies upper division electives, just like this student here on the left did. But then they also took these 2 classes in sociology. And those 2 classes, as do many courses in sociology, those 2 classes relate to American culture and or history. So we're able to count up to 4 of those from another discipline towards the American Studies degree. So they don't have to come from sociology. We're able to count classes from many other departments. You'll consult with an advisor for the specifics on this, but we can count classes from history, political science, women and gender studies, Chicano studies, Asian American studies, African American studies, English, communications, criminal justice. Basically, you name it, and the department probably offers at least a few classes that tackle cultural topics that relate to American studies. So with the approval of an American Studies advisor, as long as these disciplinary courses come in a pair of at least two, I always say like animals to the ark, right? So you could do 2 social classes and 2 Asian American Studies classes, or 2 history classes and 2 poli-sci classes. But it's a maximum of 4 courses outside the major. And again, they have to come in pairs for the disciplinary focus. Now let's look at this third option. This is the themed approach. Not a lot of students do this, but it's worth knowing about just in case. So for the themed approach, again, at least 4 of your electives have to be American Studies courses. Here, this student has taken 5 American Studies classes. But then, again, we can count courses from outside the major. Now, the difference between the disciplinary approach and the themed approach is that the disciplinary approach, these courses have to be from the same discipline, right? They come in pairs. However, the themed approach, the outside classes just have to connect around a theme, and this could be any theme. And by the way, these themes are for advising purposes. They don't show up on your TDA. But for instance, this student has a theme of race and gender in the US. So they've taken courses from Chicano studies, Asian American studies, and African American studies that are all looking at the experiences of different people of color within the United States, or specifically at women of color in some of these examples. So that's just one sample theme, but your theme might be something like health and fitness in the United States. And you could look at courses on race and sports, or masculinity in sports. Maybe your interest is in food in America. So you can take some courses from liberal studies, or maybe something from kinesiology. All of this is flexible. And you work with an American Studies advisor in order to determine what classes we could count for you from outside the major. Again, never more than 4 outside the major. Sometimes these are classes that could overlap with your GE requirements. Sometimes they could overlap with courses from a double major or a minor. Again, meet with an advisor, we can walk you through it. And that's why it's really smart to meet with an advisor every semester, so you stay on track, you know exactly what you've taken, what you have left, and where to go from here. Another thing to keep in mind is that if American Studies is your primary major, you can sometimes finish all your GE requirements and all of your American Studies classes and still be short of the minimum 120 units required to graduate from Cal State Fullerton. In that case, you could just take random classes to fill those units, stress management, underwater basket weaving, Japanese 101, whatever you like. Or you might think about adding a minor or a double major. And there are some advantages to that. It's really nice for graduate schools or potential employers to see that you went above and beyond and chose an additional focus on top of your major. Again, that's the kind of thing you could talk with an advisor from American Studies and from the other discipline you're considering.
Well, here you should be hearing more narration, but obviously that's not working. On this slide, I'm telling you about the culture of the department and the different events that we offer. So we have images of a pizza night, resume workshops, we have game nights, walking tours, movie nights, and a number of these are actually going on right now. During COVID, we're just doing virtual versions of them. So even though you're entering during a virtual semester, we'll still have opportunities for events like this. And these are put on by our American Studies Student Association, which hosts a lot of different activities, and you can always get involved in that. They're always looking for ideas of things to do and always looking for new leaders. In fact, there's spaces available for different positions this spring.
So everybody who majors in American Studies, myself included, gets asked, what are you going to do with that major? And my response is anything you want, right? I encourage American Studies to really think about the way that the knowledge and skills you gain in American Studies can serve you in any career. So think about this. You learn to really think critically, to take in all kinds of information to assess what sources are reliable ones, to think critically about the world around you, about the past, the present, and the future. And that skill is applicable in any job and any life situation you will ever have. Our students also learn to analyze different kinds of sources, whether it's a TV show, a movie, a comic book, a historical archive, an in-person interview, a news show online, whether it's a scholarly writing or a fictional novel, right? You can tackle all those kinds of sources and think about them in original and critical ways. We also make sure that our students are trained to conduct research, whether that research is online, in the archives, or through in-person interviews or observation. It's an important skill to be able to gather information, sift through it, and then put it together in a concise, clear way to make a specific argument or case, right? We also make sure that our students are able to communicate effectively in both speech and in writing. And this is a key one, especially nowadays, we know that American Studies students understand and appreciate issues of diversity. They are able to see and respect other people's perspectives and experiences, even if they don't share those perspectives or experiences. And I can't imagine an employer or a graduate program in the world that doesn't want people who are able to do that, who can see beyond their own worldview. Now, on a simply more pragmatic level, I think demonstrating that you got a major in a field that includes a lot of reading and a lot of writing, more so than most majors, it demonstrates that you're not only willing to take on a heavy load, but you can manage a heavy workload. And that requires organizational skills. It requires a strong work ethic. Those are important things, again, that are going to serve you in any job. Now, there is no such thing as an American Studies-er. There is no profession of American Studies. So I thought it might be useful for you to hear a few examples of the kind of jobs that our students do. Now, this list could go on forever, so I'm just going to choose a few. But we have students who work in nonprofit organizations. We have students who work in social justice organizations. We have students who are educators, who are social workers. We have students who work for NPR and host podcasts. We have students who work in communication and human resources at Disney. We have students who own thrift stores online. We have students who are lawyers, who are judges. We have students who work for cities and states. We have students who work for the federal government in Washington, D.C. We have students who work for video gaming companies. We have students who do social media for sustainable children's clothing stores. Our students do everything, and we are so proud of them. I just want to convey that there are many opportunities available to you as an American Studies student. And we also work with our students to think about how to prepare themselves professionally, whether that's through doing an internship. Again, that's one of the options you can use to satisfy one of those 8 electives for American Studies majors. And we also talk with students about how to prepare materials in a way that really speak to not just what American Studies is, but what it has prepared you to do. We also make sure that every student in the American Studies 350 course, which is one of the required core courses for majors, we spend a week thinking about careers. We have alumni come back and speak at careers panels. So we are thinking as much as you are about what are you going to do with this degree? And we're going to help you figure out what that path forward looks like for you. So thank you a lot for watching this presentation. I hope that it has taught you a bit about American Studies and what it would take if you decided that you wanted to major or minor in American Studies. I want to let you know before you head out that the best way to figure out if American Studies is the right fit for you, or to go about making official your American Studies minor, major, or double major, is to contact American Studies advisors. Now, you can reach out to the professors who are teaching an American Studies class you're enrolled in, or you can just email American Studies Advising, that's AMST Advising, @fullerton.edu with your questions. And an American Studies advisor can check your transcript, see what you've taken and what you would need to take for American Studies. As well, I hope you'll look at the American Studies website or at the American Studies Department page on the HSS website, because we have there more information and resources about the major, about the courses we offer, about what other students say about why they've chosen American Studies. There's lots of different resources for you. So we hope you'll take advantage of those. And thanks for taking the time to learn more about American Studies. Have a great day.
Okay, so that was sort of the overview of advising in the department. And that I wanted to show you one more shorter video that is a chance to stop listening to me, because that was a lot of me talking, recorded talking, live talking. That's a lot of me. I will say quickly before I move on to the next video that that AMST advising email address, I'm the one behind that. So you can email that address and it's going to come to me, or you can email me directly at clane@fullerton.edu, because I'm especially committed to supporting transfer students. I know that it's hard in any circumstances to come in the middle of the year, the academic year, and it's even harder right now with everything so up in the air, so much tumultuous things going on around pandemics and elections and everything. So I just want you to know that there is a human on the other end of that email address, and that human is me. But before we move on to questions and answers, I want to share one more video with you.
I started taking a couple American Studies classes because I had an interest in U.S. history to begin with. And I just fell in love with the material, and it got to a point where I realized I couldn't really see myself doing anything else but American Studies.
When I learned what American Studies was and how it's an interdisciplinary field of study, I figured it would be perfect because it covers all the areas that I'm most interested in anyway. So it's like, yeah. With a minor in American Studies, I feel like I know a lot more about culture than I did before. I learned a lot about history and a lot about the societal effects of American history. So it's been a good complement to my major.
I always tell people that my first American Studies class, and I feel like a lot of people have a similar reaction, it's like the scene in The Matrix when you're offered the red pill or the blue pill to understand the Matrix. And I think taking American Studies class is like taking the blue pill, truly seeing the world for what it is and not what it's been taught to you as.
I think out of the courses I've taken so far, I've enjoyed the monsters course the most because it was eye-opening to me. It showed me that academia could be combined with like my personal interest, and it's actually impacted like what I'm going to write my thesis on. I'm a big fan of professional wrestling, and before coming into this program, I didn't think that I could ever study it in a way outside of just being a fan watching it on TV.
I took a Prejudice in America class in 2016, fall of 2016, during the presidential election. And that was a very, very powerful class, just due to the climate of the country at the time and the topics that we talked about, and really making an effort to treat people, as humans, and understanding what causes the prejudice in each and every one of us. It was a very important class.
One class that's coming to mind is California culture. And every day he came in with such passion that every day I was excited to go into class every single day because I was so excited to learn something new, something that his main aspect in teaching was giving spotlight on figures, events that were hidden in plain sight. And so every day I kind of came in looking like, what secret am I going to learn today? And being raised and born in California, it completely changed how I looked at the state I live in and our past and how it kind of impacted how we live today.
So the courses and assignments that stand out to me at first thought would be disability in the U.S. This class gave me a big insight to this population of people with disabilities, how they live, how they function, how they wish to be treated. But it also offered a chance to be of service. So I was able to volunteer my time with the Special Olympics And that was really interesting to see, and especially with a background in athletics and fitness, to see these people competing, winning, and celebrating was really a privilege, and I was really grateful for that. But what I've enjoyed the most hasn't been so much the courses and assignments, but the professors themselves. They all bring a certain passion and almost intensity to the courses, which makes me want to do better, makes me want to write better papers, really develop my own interpretation and articulate that regarding the courses. So that's what I really enjoyed.
Another course I really enjoyed was American immigrant cultures. Being an immigrant, I feel like that narrative is often written by other people, but that course allowed me to understand other people's stories as well as navigate my own in the larger American society and history.
With a lot of classes, I feel like the professors or administrators, they feel like they have the right way of thinking and the students are not allowed to think any other way. With American Studies, it feels a lot of times that we're allowed to think our own ways and have our own opinions as long as we can back them up with evidence.
One of my favorite papers that I've written was for the American Studies 401T class, the capstone course, and I was able to research Chicano history and rock music, and I really love music, so being able to research and learn about something that I love as well, that also deals with my identity and my passion, was really fun. And now I know a lot more about Chicano rock and just rock and roll history in general.
So one interesting topic that I wrote about was actually this semester for my monster class. And I wrote about Zombieland and the monsters in Zombieland, whether they be the zombies or the characters. But I had a lot of fun with that paper for sure.
American Studies, I think, at the heart of it has made me a better person. It's made me want to be a better person and treat people with respect and dignity. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about being an American Studies major.
American Studies has given me a sense of community here at Cal State Fullerton, at a community school where you're not thinking about finding group of friends, but American Studies has really made me find something like that with not just the students, but also the professors.
American Studies has impacted everyday life for me. It's changed how I think about things. It's made me look at everyday objects and experiences in a new light. It's forcing me to ask questions while also helping me answer questions that I've had my whole life.
I've had so many opportunities open up with this department, with the professors, the faculty, a lot of support that I haven't experienced anywhere else on campus.
I think a big factor in why I enjoy this program so much is because it's a very flexible program, and I think that aligns well with the type of student that I am. I have friends who just started their programs this year, and they have very structured programs to whereas you can decide what professor you want to take, but your schedule is laid out for the next 2-3 years. Whereas in this program, you have the freedom, since it is interdisciplinary, you have the freedom to take whatever courses you like that spark your interest with whatever professor you like.
In the master's program, you really come into a community. It's not just you take your classes and you leave. You really become part of the American Studies community, and it's just such a very welcoming community, and you learn so much with every class. And there's like, if I go to the 4th floor in this building, I can go to any of the offices and talk to a professor there. And I know like they would welcome me and like have a fun discussion with me. I think that's one of the most amazing things about this department.
Through the 501 class, I actually had a paper accepted at the National Pop Culture and American Culture Association, and I am looking to present in Washington, D.C. this coming April, which is a very exciting opportunity for me and something I didn't expect to be accepted into my first semester here at Cal State Fullerton. But I feel the teaching here has prepared me exceptionally for that type of opportunity.
I also really wanted to be in an environment that helped me immerse myself in different perspectives. And so a lot of the American Studies grad students come from different undergrad programs and disciplines. And so the discussions and things like that seemed they would offer me those new perspectives that I really needed to better my writing.
I think if you are going to major or join the American Studies program here at Cal State Fullerton, you'll be very impressed with the faculty here. You'll be very impressed with the knowledge that they have, the skills, and the different types of fields that they teach in. There's a wide variety and understanding that they build with their coursework, and they really prepare you to become that scholar in the future.
They want to see you succeed. And I don't think a lot of departments have that. And I'm very, very lucky to have chosen this department and to have this department choose me.
Okay, so that was, that video always gets me because I love our students. You guys are the very best thing about this department. But what I wanted to do now was to just give you a chance to ask some questions you have about the department. There will be a session this afternoon that will be a less formal session where I can do individual one-on-one advising in terms of classes and registration support, things like that. But in the meantime, now, if you have other questions about the department that I could answer, I'd be happy to answer any of those.
I'm personally trying to think about any questions that I might have. I know I took a American Studies class before I left Cal State Fullerton back in I want to say 2017, maybe 2018, and I loved it. And I was actually a history major at first. Mm-hmm. And I wound up leaving and then coming back now because I was like, you know what, I think I actually really do want to do this, pursue this American Studies major. But I had a teacher, his name was, I think his name was Matthew Haskins, I want to say. Mm-hmm. He was the one that was like, I want to do this. It was really great. I took I think it was Intro to Pop Culture at American Studies 300, I think. Mm-hmm. I want to say. And I just wanted to ask, are there any other classes like that, or is that the only one that is like a pop culture class?
Oh, that's a great question, Andre. First of all, Matt Haskins still teaches with us, so he's still here. You can say hi. We have a lot of classes that focus on popular culture. Awesome. That American Studies 300 class is sort of a broader introduction to pop culture, and after that, it sort of zeroes in. So we have a wonderful class on television in American culture. We have Hollywood and film. We have a specific class now on race and popular culture that is really incredible. We also have a class that's going to be taught, actually, I think next year for the first time in a while, that's about pop culture and globalization. So thinking about how American popular culture spreads around the globe, and also how popular culture produced in other countries and regions is received and distributed and communicated around American culture. Just
that could be a great class. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I know, right? I always want to take that one. So yeah, we have a lot of classes, and we also have 2 new hires who've just started this year, Eric Gonzaba, and well, I guess this is their second year now. Eric Gonzaba and Chris Rowe, and they both have different specialties in popular culture. And so they bring a whole new angle to it. Chris does a lot of work on representations of Black women in the media and in digital communities. And then Eric has a wonderful project he runs on wearing gay history. And it's t-shirts that he has collected and digitized from around the world, from any time in early mid 20th century until today. And then he also does a lot of really interesting work. This spring, he's teaching for the first time a class, American Nightlife. So,
okay.
Again, another one I would take. So yeah, we have a lot of classes around pop culture. And then what you'll also likely find is that classes that aren't ostensibly about pop culture often have it in there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I teach a class on disability in American culture, and 1/3 of it is about representations of disability in the media. So it's kind of woven in there. But I'm thrilled that you liked that class and that it brought you back to us. when you
Yeah,
came back.
it was great. I saw during the video there was actually quite a bit of different classes that go over African American class. Are there any sort of African American classes that I can take? Because being a Black man myself, I would honestly like to just take more and just see what else I can learn. And I saw I think there was a class about I think it was fashion in America, and I think that'd be super interesting to take.
Yeah, absolutely. So Terry Snyder teaches that class on fashion, and Terry is a scholar of race and American history. And so that class is very intersectional in looking at gender, race, class in the history of fashion. So that would be a really interesting one. And then a couple things I should mention. So yes, we have a lot of classes that are looking at race within American culture. So for instance, there's a class on I can't remember if this is the official title, but we call it Race, Sex, and the City, right? So sort of looking at urban life and race in different eras. And then we also are very fortunate to have a really close relationship to the different ethnic studies programs, including
Right.
African American studies.
Awesome.
So one thing you might consider, as I mentioned in the video earlier, you have 8 electives in American studies to take, and you can take some of those outside. So if you decided that you wanted a focus on African American studies within American culture, you could take up to 4 classes in African American studies, and those could count towards the American studies major.
Great. Okay, that's awesome. Because I have taken one American Studies class already. I think actually during the same semester I took, the pop culture class. So I definitely took African American Studies class as well as that. And that was my next question, was if that does factor into the American Studies major.
Absolutely. And this afternoon, when we do registration, by then I'll make sure that I have those little advisement sheets you saw in the video. One of the good parts about being a small department is, if there were 300 of you, I wouldn't have time, but there's a smaller number. So what I'm going to do is, before we chat this afternoon at the registration support session, I will check your TDA and lay out exactly what you've taken and what remains. And we can look at how those courses might fit. If you end up taking more African American studies classes and really liking them, and they have just wonderful offerings that are, new courses being added all the time, then you might also consider maybe you want to add a minor in African American studies.
Right.
Because their classes work so beautifully with American studies.
Mm-hmm.
And as I mentioned, a lot of students end up, in order to get 120 units, they have sort of extra units. And you might just sort of keep that, in the back of your mind as you're taking classes. We can always set you up with an African American studies advisor too, to see exactly what the minor would entail for you.
Awesome. That's definitely something I will take note of.
Sure, my pleasure. And I'll focus on that as I look at your TDA for this afternoon. I'll go ahead and look at their minor and see just what that would take, just for fun.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. And now, Erica, you are a returning student as well.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so this is such an exciting time for you two to be returning, right? It's not a normal semester at all. But Erica, did you have any questions about the program or different aspects of it?
No, I don't. I mean, I was here, I think my last semester here was like in spring of 2018. So,
Okay.
in watching the presentation that you gave us, I was excited to see that there's actually more that was added since I've been, since I was last here. But yeah, like I said, I'm a junior standing, so I'm pretty much almost done. So I like how there's more opportunities. So yes, it's not really much a question. It's just more like I have more to explore from, because like I said, I took a 2-year gap from school, so I didn't really think that this was the avenue I wanted to explore as a major. Didn't think I was going to finish school, but for me personally, I didn't know how much American studies influenced my daily life, so that's why I wanted to come back and just finish. And
that's awesome. Well, welcome back. I think that's amazing. And I think it's not an easy thing to do, to come back to school after leaving it, right? I think when you when you roll along and it's expected, then maybe inertia kind of pulls you through. But when you take a break and you come back, that's impressive. And I will say, as a professor, sometimes there's no better student than one who's taken a break, because when you come back, you look at all these students who take it all for granted and you're like, oh, you don't even know, right? You don't know what it's like to come back. Yeah.
If I would have did this sooner, everything would have been fine. I would have been finished. But like I said, I didn't utilize everything that this department gave. like as far as advising, all that. Like for me, it was just me doing it by myself. So I didn't think that this was for me.
Well, you know what? I'm glad that you decided differently. And I will say, I mean, it really is true. We're a school of over 40,000 students. It is very easy for students to feel like they're kind of on their own navigating this huge university. And we really want to disabuse you of that idea, right? Because I'm here to support you, the other advisors in the department. In some, in some departments at Cal State Fullerton, you have one advisor, they advise all the undergrads. And in our department, that's not the way it is. The vast majority of us who are full-time tenured or tenure track faculty, we advise students as well. So that way, if somebody, let's hope I wouldn't drop the ball, but let's say I drop the ball, there's 11 other people who would be happy to help you. And so I think that's a nice thing. And also, I hope you both know that, if questions come up, even if they're not about American studies, but if you run into questions or challenges around other issues, I might not know the answer to all of them, but I've been here long enough. This is my 16th year at Cal State Fullerton. I've been here
Wow.
long enough that I might not know the answer, but I know the people who know the answer. So I can always put you in touch with, I have like gurus. I have like a TDA guru who I can reach out to. I've got my connections in other departments. So, sometimes the red tape, the bureaucracy, the requirements, all that stuff can be so confusing. It's like a black box. So it's nice to have somebody who can even just figuratively hold your hand and walk you through the process. So just know that it doesn't have to be American Studies related. You can still reach out to me. And I want to say one more thing about what you said, Erica. Yeah, even just since 2018, I mean, we've had 4 new faculty members join the department, and they have brought new classes, and then current faculty members have added new classes as well. So, you really will, you may have done this already, but you'll want to look through the list of course offerings and see, even though you might not have, you don't have 4 full years ahead of you to take American Studies classes, there's a lot of really cool electives you'll have an opportunity to take. And also, both of you will still have to take the 401t research seminar. And the subjects for those change every single semester. So it's kind of nice because there's this rotating set of opportunities depending on which semester you choose to take it.
As far as the 401t, that's only offered in fall, correct?
Nope, it's offered fall, spring, and occasionally in the summer.
Oh, really? Because it's not on when I tried to add stuff to my shop, like my cart. The 401t wasn't there, so I'm assuming that it's already filled.
Well, I have good news for you. They were filled, but because they were filled, we just decided yesterday to open up another section of the 401.
Okay, because I was like, oh man, I was like, that's the only core class that I need that's left to take. Yep. I've taken the 201, all that, the 350. Yep. And I thought I was gonna have to wait till next semester, and I was like, oh man.
No, actually, you should be able to take it. And when you're in a situation like that, whether it's the 401 or anything else, because you need that class to graduate, you can always email either the faculty member who's teaching it or me or our chair, Terry Snyder, and any one of us will help get you permitted into that. Because sort of our policy as a department, and again, a benefit of being a small department, is if you need it to graduate, we don't want to make you enroll a whole nother semester for a class that we are offering. So there will be a new section opening up that you'll be able to join in. I believe it'll be taught by Professor Sarah Fingal. I can't remember.
I've had her before for California.
Oh, you have? Okay, so I think that
my favorite class. So yeah, I'm familiar with
it. That is great news then. So I think she's offering it. And then just in case if that weren't to work out, there's also a summer section being offered this summer by Eric Gonzaba. And so one way or another, you can take it before fall.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah, like I said, so used to doing it on my own. So I'm trying to get used to the community. And,
no, it's so much easier if you just, just see an advisor, because we can lay it out. I'll fill out those little sheets for you. Yeah. It's so much clearer. You've probably seen one, Erica. You probably had one when you were here before. Yeah, so we can fill that out, and that way there are no surprises. We don't want you to be a few weeks from the end of the semester, you think you're graduating, and it turns out there's some one random unit floating around that you need to complete, or the class that you need is full. Again, we can help with that. We just need to know in advance so that we can troubleshoot. So we'll look at that, and I'll check. I just got an email about that 401t, so I'll check when it's going to be available so that you can add it. I don't want you to have to just keep clicking and clicking. Okay. But I'll find out the details on that.
Really appreciate that.
Okay, any other questions I can help you with now?
No, pretty much all caught up.